You see the title. Let's get into it. Shall we? Oh, yes, we shall. A sweet old auntie. Thank you, subscribers, and my users and reviews, and all of y'all who have been here through the long haul. Shall we get into it? Oh, yes, we shall. It's time for Auntie Televised. Sweet old. It's time for Auntie Televised. Oh, yeah. It's time for Auntie Televised. Well, hello, everybody, and this is Auntie. And if this is your first time being here, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And to all of my new subscribers, thank you all so much for hitting that subscribe button and joining to the family. And to all of my nieces, nephews, and my members who have been here with me for the long haul, thank you all so much for your continued support. Let me change something real quick, y'all. I like myself blurred for some reason or a different background. So let me see if this thing will allow me to blur. There we go. Y'all, this is the case that just won't go away. Yeah, it just won't go away. I yesterday had the opportunity to watch an interview that Mackenzie's mother did. And it brought up so many feelings in me, right? And frustration, anger, irritation, audacity, just from listening to her mom. And I want to talk about it, but I want to give a lot some updates on what is going on first before I talk about it. For those of you all who are new, put your comments downtown in the comments section, because that's why I go live. I go live so that you go live with me and you can have a conversation with like-minded people who have clicked on this video just like you, so that they can have a conversation about how they feel about this as well. So I got Miss McKenzie sitting to the front. I wanted to bring her to the front. And yes, that's the interview I'm talking about, Alice Hill. Alice Hill said the interview was a hot mess with Chris, and that is the one that we want to talk about. Hey, it's Miss Angie. Hey, JW 1063. Hello there, Randy Thompson 7952. Welcome, Ray Della. um okay, so good, Randy. You'll be able to catch I'll be able to catch you up with some of it. So without further ado, as you all know, I made some notes, and so I'm going to be partially reading off of my notes, okay? Because I just need to. I noticed that since I've gotten to be this age, and maybe you all have picked it up too, I need notes now. Now, back in the day when I first started off, honey, I could rattle that stuff off my brain, but now I notice that I will get I get off of off the subject really easy. So I got my notes, okay? So let's talk about where we are right now. Mackenzie um trial transcripts were filed in the appellate court right on October 2000 and October 23rd of 2023. Under the Ohio law, she had 365 days from that filing date to submit a petition for post conviction relief. Her attorneys filed the petition on October 24 of 2024. Now, a lot of people are talking about the 365 days, thinking that the 23rd will be the 23rd of the 365 days. I'm sorry, y'all. Hold on for 1 second. I apologize. I'm back, you all. Live stuff happen when you live. So I don't know if I'm blurry on y'all end, but I'm blurry on my end. I don't know what's happening, but if it looks blurry, I apologize. Okay, so let's finish our discussion. Where were we? So they thought that 365 days would be 1 year and it will fall on the 23rd. However, because 2024 was a leap year, her attorneys argued the filing should still be considered timely. They essentially contended that the extra date in February affected the deadline calculation. And so the Ohio courts rejected that argument, and the appellate court explained that the statute gives defendants 365 days, not 1 calendar year, if that makes sense. A leap year does not extend a statutory 365-day deadline. Therefore, they ruled October 24th, 2024 was 1 day too late, making the petition barred. After that, the trial court dismissed the petition as untimely. The 8th District Court of Appeals affirmed that dismissal, and the Ohio Supreme Court declined to hear the case, leaving the lowest court decision in place. And I'm hoping you all understand that. If you don't, I'll come back and explain it. The Supreme Court's order did not address whether McKenzie had valid claims regarding ineffective assistance of counsel, POTS, or dismissed capacity. It simply declined review after the lower courts found that the petition was untimely. Basically, they ain't even look at this. Okay? Did they really miss it because of the leap year? Is the question that was asked. This is what the defense was arguing about, but the courts didn't agree with them. And the defense position was essentially the leap year affected our calculation. So the petition should not be considered late. But the court's response was the statute said 365 days. A leap year does not change that. The petition was filed day 366. So I want to explain what the legal issue is. So the legal issue was not that the court forgot about the leap year. Rather, it was that the defense calculated the deadline differently than the courts interpreted the statute. And every reviewing court sided with the prosecution's interpretation. So I want to make one additional point that may be helpful, right? This missed deadline applied to her petition for post conviction relief, not for a direct appeal. Okay. Okay. So the other day, Chris Cuomo had an interview, and I usually don't watch his show, but it came up in my algorithm. So I watched it. Chris Cuomo sat down with Natalie, which is Mackenzie's mother, to discuss that fatal crash in July of 2022. As we all know, the crash killed Mackenzie's boyfriend, Dominique, and Davion. Um, um, okay. So rather than me focusing solely on the evidence presented at the trial, right? Chris Como's interview centered around who Mackenzie was before the crash, whether she was, let me hold on, I got to bullet it, whether she was fairly represented in court, and why her family believes she was wrongfully convicted of intentionally causing this collision. So at the beginning, Como, right, Chris, acknowledged that many viewers believed that Natalie had been intentionally excluded from his earlier interview with Mackenzie's father, because he did one with the dad as well. But Natalie explained that she simply was not prepared at that time to appear on camera. But she got time to be on a cell phone. Anyway, I digress. And so Chris said that he wanted to give her the opportunity to tell her side of the story. So what I noticed throughout the interview, that Natalie was arguing that the public um, has formed what she calls a inaccurate picture of Mackenzie. She rejects descriptions of Mackenzie as reckless, violent, manipulative, or a bully. And so instead, as a mom, she's portraying her as a caring, adventurous young woman who fiercely defended her friends and loved her family. Her mom says that many of Mackenzie's disciplinary issues at school, they stem from standing up for her classmates rather than her initiating any conflict herself. Like, she didn't have anything to do with that. She was just defending her classmates. And people have judged her based on the worst day of her life instead of judging her on the person she had been before this crash, this fatal crash that took two lives. Where it appears from the investigation, there were no even brake marks, no skid marks, no nothing. The conversation with Chris and Natalie shifted to Mackenzie's relationship with Dominique, right? Dominic. And her mom described the couple as deeply devoted to one another. I had some text messages that I forgot to load, so please forgive me for that. But maybe it's better that I didn't, and maybe it's better that I read it. Let me see if I can find text messages, because I had clipped them and totally forgot to upload them, y'all. I usually like for you all to see them. Um, but Chris was showing them some. Her mom, again, like I said, described them as a deeply devoted couple, and explained that they spent nearly every day together over the course of 4 years. She talked about family vacations, shared meals, and countless conversations in which she helped both of them work through ordinary relationship challenges. First of all, they was too young to be that serious. But anyway, I digress. To support her position, Miss Natalie says she shares text messages that she exchanged with Dominique, arguing that while some of the couple's private texts appeared unhealthy when viewed in isolation, they lacked the context necessary for us, the jury, the judge, because it wasn't a jury, the judge. It lacked the content necessary for us to accurately portray the relationship or to understand the relationship. And in her view, Dominic and McKenzie were not trapped in a toxic relationship, but were simply two young people learning how to navigate adulthood. I'm going to read one of those text messages that the mom is talking about. So in this one, she says, I absolutely cannot believe you just tried to end my life. This is coming from McKenzie. Dominic says, oh, then don't be with me. She said, you need effing help. Curse word was right about you, I guess. McKenzie goes on to say, you blackmail the person you love and you try to kill the person that you love. Dominique says, I'm breaking up with you. McKenzie says, you know how much I love and care about you. And I get this. I was just trying to make you effing happy and feel better. Dominic goes on to say, I'm too bipolar. You got to just not talk to me. Mackenzie in all caps. Of course, she's writing back and everything in all caps. But no, you make me feel like I'm nothing for no reason. Why do you think I hate myself so much? So Dominic said, you make me feel like I have to do everything with you or I'm doing something wrong. You think I'm always mad. She said, I effing hate myself. I'm ugly and you just add on to it and make me feel even uglier. Like you can just leave me and walk away like that. It's effed up. Y'all are kids. Yes, he can walk away just like that. Y'all don't have a house together. Like they live together, but you ain't have no investment properties, no children, nothing that was binding them together. Y'all are kids. And you writing these kind of text messages? He says, now I just sound dumb. Now you just sound dumb. She says, you make me feel like I'm worthless. I do so much for you. Then she says, all you are is mentally abusive, physically abusive, and a terrible boyfriend. And you don't do anything good for me. And you literally treat me like and call me the worst names you can think of. The fact that my boyfriend of 4 years just tried to unalive me by steering me off the highway, that's how I know you're not in love and you never were. Somebody who loves me would never do this to me. The only reason it went this far is because you tried to unalive me. He said, Kenzie, I didn't. She said, you could have just apologized when you did something wrong, but I forgot. You're too immature. He said, why would I try to carry MS2? She says, I'm already nervous driving in the rain as it is. And the fact that you would even try to steer me off the road and make my car spin out, probably because you're mentally ill and you used to hit your head on the wall. And okay, he basically told her, I don't want to be with you. These are kids. I don't understand how people let their kids date young, but that's a whole different topic for another day. But I don't understand it because you kids. One of the central points that was in Natalie and Chris interview was McKenzie's medical condition, right? So she said that McKenzie had been diagnosed with POTS. Now, I forgot to upload that, but the symptoms of POTS is, according to the Cleveland Clinic, is dizziness or lightheadedness, especially when standing up, during prolonged standing, or on long walks. Fainting or near fainting, shortness of breath, brain fog, and heart palpitations or racing heart rate. Now, Natalie brought it up, and of course, they tried to use it in the case. Natalie brought it up and said that she had this condition, POTS, long before the crash. And according to the mom, family members, teachers, and friends all knew about this diagnosis because she wanted to make sure she told them because they needed to understand how to respond should McKenzie experience any fainting episodes. Fainting while she was driving on TikTok with marijuana. All of the little stuff she was doing. In addition to that, she had parts and was fainting and stuff, and then her friends needed to know, and she was driving by herself and all of that kind of stuff. Did y'all see her stuff on TikTok? Anyway, I digress. According to the mother, everybody knew. She explains that the parts can cause non epileptic seizures like episodes and believes that the condition deserved far more attention during the trial than it ultimately received. But the girl was driving with POTS when she could have a fainting spell at any time. Okay. So Chris agreed that the defense handling of the medical evidence, right, raised some questions. He repeatedly expressed confusion about why McKenzie's attorneys did not pursue a diminished capacity defense based on her significant TH levels, why POTS was not developed more thoroughly, right? And why McKenzie never testified, and why they opted for a bench trial instead of allowing a jury to decide the case. And Chris went on repeatedly to state that he believes these strategic decisions may have poorly or severely weakened their defense. And so Miss Natalie admits that she couldn't explain those legal decisions. Let me bring her to the front. Let me bring her to the front. Are you serious? As involved as they are, you mean to tell me this is a story that you want us to believe? Okay. Okay. She couldn't explain the legal decisions. When her and her husband have been, in my opinion, just based on observation, involved in everything. You know how many jail calls they got where they was, you know what, don't go, stay focused. See, that's why you got notes. So you can stay focused, auntie. Her mom went on to say neither her or her husband understood why certain evidence was never introduced. And she went on to claim that they learned about new information only after the trial had concluded. Just like I think that maybe some people believe that they learned about pots during the trial. You know, those people that you said everybody knew, teachers, friends, church, clergy, like everybody knew the man at the 7-Eleven. Could that possibly? Since everybody knew. She went on to complain or express her frustration, right? That important police interviews and discovery materials surfaced publicly after McKenzie had already been convicted. And this left her thinking whether all the available evidence had ever been fully presented. So now are we blaming our own lawyers? The discussion with Chris also addressed, right, Mackenzie's claim that she has no memory of the crash. So her mom went on to say that Mackenzie has never fabricated an explanation for what happened because she genuinely doesn't remember. So Chris acknowledged that if Mackenzie were attempting to escape responsibility, she could have easily have blamed, the two guys or invented an alternate version of events. Instead, she has consistently maintained that she has no recollection. And so Chris described this as one of the stronger points supporting her credibility while also recognizing that prosecutors view the claim memory loss with skepticism. And so her mom revealed that Mackenzie wanted to undergo hypnosis almost since the day of the crash. And she wanted to do this because she was hoping to recover her memories. She explained that her daughter continues to seek answers for herself, regardless of whether recovered memories would ever affect her legal case. And so Chris responded that this kind of treatment, right, refresh testimony can sometimes be admissible under Ohio law, though its credibility would ultimately be up to the court to evaluate it, right? So, on another topic that involved Mackenzie was her conduct while she's incarcerated in jail. Now, we have, for those of us who have been following this case, we've heard many of the conversations. Moreover, I believe that there's an interview that I saw come up in my algorithm, but for some reason it disappeared, where one of the jailmates, I believe, had been having a discussion or did an interview with somebody. So stuff has been leaking out of the jail, right, concerning her damn behavior downtown to the jail. And it doesn't look cute. And so Chris confronted Natalie with reports that Mackenzie accumulated numerous disciplinary tickets in prison. And so her mom um, attempted to provide context, and she was explaining that many of the infractions or these tickets involve technical violations, such as possessing another inmate's alarm clock, having their pillow, having an extra blanket, or food. And she also discusses a citation involving another inmate's prenatal vitamins that Mackenzie took, explaining that she believed that she was trying to supplement her nutrition by taking somebody else's pills. So when Como raised the reports involving the actually explicit communications, her mother didn't want to talk about that. She didn't want to talk about the details of that. The only thing that she would say is that McKenzie must follow the prison rules like everybody else. She also disputed claims circulating on social media that Miss McKenzie quickly entered a romantic relationship when she went downtown to the jail and or engaged in violent behavior while being incarcerated. And she described her daughter instead as someone who spends much of her time drawing, painting, journaling, writing music, and making artwork for other inmates and their children. But before she talked about the inmates and the other children, she talked about how dark Mackenzie's art was. Keep that in mind. So, of course, we know that Mackenzie's parents, her mom and her dad, have always been trying to talk about intent. This ain't got nothing to do with intent. That has irritated me from day A, from the begin with this story. Is she didn't intend. How do you know what she intended? Chris explained that because the prosecution argued that McKenzie intentionally drove into the building, their theory effectively required believing she was willing to die as well. He did point that out. And Natalie rejected that. She wanted to point to a text message, the ones that I just read to y'all, showing that McKenzie was making plans to work the following day. She was making plans to care for people's pets and to celebrate her upcoming birthday. And so she argued that all these future plans are inconsistent with someone contemplating unaliving themselves. That's some bull. And that, in my opinion, makes you extremely ignorant of case after case after case, cases after cases after cases of people who have done this and no one ever knew because they had made plans. It's always a shock because it's like that life just cut off right then and there. So, of course, her mother became emotional, right, while discussing the families of Dominic and Davion. She insisted that she never viewed them as enemies and said she often wishes she could simply knock on their doors, hug them, apologize for their unimaginable loss, grieve together. And she went on to acknowledge that the ongoing appeal process forces the victim families to continually relieve the tragedy, but maintained that she cannot abandon her efforts, her child, to prove her daughter did not intentionally cause the crash. And so, towards like the end of the interview, her mom raised other another issue, right? Because she believes um, this has been widely misunderstood. That Mackenzie's use of a private family language known as carny talk, almost like pig Latin, while hospital after the crash, y'all remember that? She disputes that Natalie's claims that Mackenzie asked someone to falsely say she had suffered a seizure. So instead, okay, her mom says that McKenzie was actually referring to community service and a driver's license suspension, trying to, I guess, argue the fact that the unusual speech patterns led investigators, right, to the public to misinterpret what McKenzie was saying. So basically, the interview concluded with Chris reiterating that he does not believe that the public fully understands what motivated the crash. And I agree with that. But while acknowledging that, McKenzie was convicted that the evidence established she was driving a vehicle. He argues that unanswered questions remain regarding intent, memory loss, medical issues, and a defensive strategy. And so her mom ends the conversation by expressing hope that the appellate process, or perhaps recovered memories from McKenzie, might finally provide answers that she believes were never uncovered during the original trial. And that's when I said I need to come to y'all and have a conversation, because I want to talk about those things that gave me pause, those things that in my mind and in my heart I wanted to fact check. These are my opinions, and I want to make sure that you all understand that. These are things that gave me pause. Number one, McKenzie's mom, Miss Natalie, goes on to say she wasn't reckless. In my opinion, this is one of her mother's biggest contradictions. Her mother described McKenzie as she's not reckless, she's adventurous. But then she went on to explain later on that McKenzie enjoyed exploring abandoned buildings, taking risk with her friends, and constantly seeking adventure. None of those activities, in my opinion, prove someone intentionally committed murder. However, the evidence that was presented during the trial showed McKenzie, in my opinion, driving at an extremely high speed, accelerating for several seconds, making no evasive maneuvers, no braking, no steering correction. That behavior, in my opinion, was one of the central reasons I believe that the judge concluded the conduct was intentional. So saying that McKenzie wasn't reckless, come on, Mom, it's inconsistent with the behavior proven during this crash. And we ain't even going to talk about what she was doing on social media that I found to be reckless behavior, in my humble opinion. You can argue she wasn't homicidal, but you cannot honestly argue that that driving, in my humble opinion, was reckless. Number two, her mother says she loved life, so she couldn't have been ready to unalive herself. Mom, the mother said, to justify that, she had birthday plans. She had work schedule. She planned to pet sit. She would never do that. That was the last thing on her mind. But those facts, in my humble opinion, certainly support an argument does not support it. But they do not prove that she wasn't, y'all know what I mean, ready to unalive herself. Because, as I said, many people, it always comes as a shock. No one ever knows really when it's even planned. life is going on as usual. And health experts consistently note that people planning future activities can still attempt to unalive themselves. So this statement is some bullshit, in my humble opinion, and not medical evidence. Number three, people who are willing to do that don't make future plans is just simply not correct. And I really want to reiterate that it is one of the most common misconceptions. Many people who have done this schedule appointments, make travel plans, they go to work and plan to go to work. They buy gifts and they celebrate their birthdays. So this statement, in my opinion, overstates what psychology actually reports about it. Number four, the mother says she never tried to hurt herself afterwards. Her mother argues she survived. Therefore, she never intended to be unalived. But that's not necessarily true either. Because if someone experiences traumatic brain injury and has no memory of the event, later their behavior cannot definitively prove prior intent. Because didn't she forget everything and didn't remember? Then her mother went on to say she has no memory, so she couldn't make up a story. I gotta walk. I just gotta walk on that one. I just gotta walk on it because that's some fool la la. The mother says she has no memory, so she couldn't make up a story. What the? That is so. Miss Natalie wants to argue if she wanted to die, if she wanted to lie, I'm sorry, she would have blamed Dom. However, lack of memory is also impossible to independently verify that. And the prosecution argued exactly that. There is no evidence that she remembers. So there's also no evidence she doesn't. The mother also went on to say, when I thought this was a crock of bullshit, in my opinion. Everyone knew she had parts. They did. Her mother said that over and over in the interview. She said the teachers knew, friends knew, family knew, everybody knew. Yet during the trial, Potts was a minor subject. You know why? Because having Potts and proving that Potts caused this crash are two different, it's two different questions. Plus, as far as I can remember, there was no medical evidence establishing right that she fainted, she blacked out, and she experienced any of the symptoms. And if the girl is falling out and got parts and everybody on notice and got a medical card with instructions on what to do, why the fuck is she driving? Shouldn't it be some type of warning, and maybe a bracelet that, you know how you had those medic break? I got parts. So if I just automatically fall out, then the mother was saying you don't stand her up, you just bend her down because the blood is rushing. Girl, if you get the, I'm trying not to let the street come out of me. I'm trying to be. They didn't have any medical evidence establishing that she fainted around her friends, family, foe, that she blacked out, and at the exact moment of impact, the parts, their connection never matched. Then the mother said if she had a seizure, she would lose memory. That may be true, but there's no evidence she even had one. So that was just hypothetical, mom. Then the mother said the prosecution never wanted justice. What the? And she said this several times during her interview. I said, "You, when your husband interviewed, you should have left it at that, in my opinion." The mother said that the prosecution never wanted justice because they wanted the highest felony. They wanted a bigger charge. There isn't evidence of misconduct, and that the prosecutors routinely chose what they believe is the highest charge supported by evidence. But at the end of the day, honey, that's their job. And unless misconduct is proven, it's just your opinion, Miss Natalie. Then her mother, one of the things that frustrated me, because there's a lot of people who have been, or at least I've been seeing them on different TikToks and stuff like that. Her mother, in my opinion, completely minimized her prison misconduct. And for me, that really stood out because this is how she been acting out there in them streets, in my opinion. The same way she acting in the box is the same way she was acting when she was out of the box. During the interview, Chris asked her multiple things and she reduced the misconduct to blankets and pillows and alarm clocks and vitamins and shit. And I looked it up, and that is true in certain jails. That may be some of the reasons why she got some of the tickets that she got. But the discussion also needed to be had about allegations of her being involved in actually explicit communication. But she quickly ain't want to talk about that. I can't speak on that. Her mother said she don't like drama. And that completely conflicts with evidence introduced during the trial. Because during the trial, they talked about her volatile relationship, her repeated arguments, and nasty text messages, the emotional conflict between her and Dom, and her, in my opinion, controlling behavior that was alleged by the prosecutors. So, whether the prosecutor's interpretation was correct or debatable, and she wanted to debate it and keep talking about intention, 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 but saying that she doesn't like drama, I'm going to leave that right there. Then the mother went on to say that the relationship wasn't toxic. So I wonder what be going on in their household is what I asked myself. Because at this point, this is subjective to whoever's watching, whoever has knowledge. It's amazing to me because what I have learned over my years of life, and maybe some of you all as moms and dads and aunties and uncles, grandmas and granddaddies realize that we often see those relationships differently than the people that are on the outside. We do. Some things we have a blind eye to. We can't be objective sometimes. But this trial included repeated breakups. And there was a message. The jealousy, the emotional conflict, and the stability of these two young people of having a meaningful, long lasting relationship. Come on, y'all. This was not viewed as a healthy relationship. And so when a mother went on to make more excuses about how she only smoked weed sometimes, I was like, the Lulu, the Lulu. In my opinion, during the interview, she minimized that girl's marijuana use. I know that when I did my first review on this, right, and I can put that down in the bottom so you all can see that someone in the comment section had indicated that she was selling it allegedly. And the mother said that she wanted to minimize it, but the toxicology report said that THC was present. Now, whether or not this caused the accident is separate from this discussion, but minimizing it, right? Um, while arguing about it wasn't that it didn't have an effect on her, that it didn't diminish her capability to properly operate that vehicle, is a whole different story. And in my opinion, if THC was insignificant, then why argue? Then why argue? It could explain her diminished capacity. Then the mother went on to say, and I'm about that the prosecutors misrepresented her carny talk, that she was never violent. Her mother tried to diminish her prison misconduct from violence. And I guess as a mom, that's fair that you would try to do that. But the offense for which she is incarcerated resulted in two people dying, even if intentional murder is disputed, right? Describing her broadly as never violent overlooks the gravity of the underlying conduct. And then the mother closes with the whole story is false. She said, neither the end. She says, this ridiculous story that's not true. Mom, in my humble opinion, some aspects of the prosecution theory does remain debatable, but certain facts are undisputed, and they're undisputable. Your daughter was driving. The vehicle reached a very high speed. There was no meaningful break before the impact. Two passengers passed away. She survived. She was convicted after a bench trial. Her conviction was upheld on appeal. And at the end of the day, those facts are established regardless of her interpretation of intent. There were a lot of things that I felt like doing my analysis of this interview, right? Um, I don't want to call them lies. I don't want to say that her mama just flat out lied. I think that that would be too harsh. But I do want to say certain things deserve to be discussed, reviewed, and talked about. I These are again my opinions. And I just wanted to go back and just look at some of the things that I felt was inconsistent and why I felt like they were inconsistent. I'm not here to say who's telling the truth and who's telling the lie because the courts, I'll leave that up to them to decide. But I just wanted to discuss some things that I felt was or needed to be discussed. Some things that caused me to pause. Some things that caused me to say, wait a minute, hold up, what? Wait a minute. Mom, can we discuss this? I thought that the interview that Chris did was excellent. Again, I don't know how it came up in my algorithm, but it did, and I'm glad that it did. I thought he did a great job. I thought that the interview, he attempted to make it fair and balanced. And I like the fact that he did not challenge and push. And so I thought it was a great interview. I can't imagine myself being a mom because I'm a mom and my child experiences something like this on either side. Just unimaginable. I, I worry every time my child goes out. It has reduced, right? But I know that she's not doing certain things. And so I'm a little bit more comfortable. But you just, when it comes down to your children, I don't know how I would act either. And that's just being honest and real upfront. I don't know if I would be her mother. I don't know if I would be Miss Natalie. I would hope that I wouldn't, But at the end of the day, I don't know if I will be Miss Natalie. Y'all let me know what y'all think downtown in the comment section. Again, these are just my opinions. What is actual, what is not. The information is coming from, sources that are already out there in the universe. And you all, it's up to you to make your decision about how you feel about this. I just wanted to have the discussion. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate you. And again, let me know in the comment section and let me know in the replay. Thank y'all so much for being here. And thank you, Ray Della, for moderating. Bye, y'all.